Yes, indeed. I will tear my heart open and it will be just to feel. How's everybody doing today? For me, I'm doing alright. The reason why I like playing songs like that is for one particular reason, and that particular reason is that it gives me a lot of memories and it makes me feel very, very happy to know that I have these memories with these people that I've had for such a long time and in my past. Is there actually sound going on now with me, or is there no sound? How is everything? Let me know if there is sound, because otherwise this is going to be a really short stream. See, this is why you have to ask the chat things, and the chat never seem to be on time with what you're doing, so it's always interesting to be able to go through this. Yay, the sound. Thank God for that. Thank you for somebody actually responding to me. I'm so happy. uh, what I'm going to be doing today is I'm actually going to be doing a live stream about the Brazilian leader. And I really wanted to get into it because a lot of people have actually been trying to sound and say that he's a very bad man, he's all right, and everything else like that. So I really want to have a look at him and see if us ourselves, just as a creative people and just as peoples in ourselves, can look at him and find out what makes him tick, the reason why and what's happening, and see what happens. I think would be very good. No, it wasn't The Sound of Silence. It was supposed to be Papa Roach, and it was supposed to be Scars. I'm always lagging because at this moment in time I've got way too much going on. So now I know that everything's going. Are we now not lagging? Are we now okay? Is everything good? Please let me know. And then I can actually start moving on with my own life and actually hopefully getting on and doing some of this shit. Hopefully. So is everything okay? Are we going well? Are we going strong? Or is there things to go? Oh, you got a friend that needs some company? I bet you do, B. I bet you do. No, it is saying that I am having a very bad portion at this minute in time and the streaming is going absolutely wank. Though kilobytes are supposed to be doing quite well, so that should be doing well at the minute. Maybe it's just you. Maybe it's just you, B. Maybe it's just you. Normally it's you. So hopefully everybody else is okay at the moment. That's it. That's the one Bolzano, or as I like to say, Bolognese. So yes, we will be talking about him today. Yes, I am also on my own today as well. So you will get my unadulterated and uninterrupted opinion, which will probably mean I'm wrong. But, you know, that's the whole point of the internet. Hopefully everybody can hear me. I'm using a headset, as you can quite rightly see. Mostly because I will not be showing my face for too long today. But, you know, it's the way that it is. It's the way that it has to go. So, should be alright. Should be go. So, let's actually get into this, shall we? So, let's go into the actual source that I'll be using for today. If anybody wants to read along with me, obviously, we do have the source that's actually put down in the description box below. So please come along and read with me if you really want to. It should be interesting. So let's go down. So this is from the Americas Quarterly, and this is the public, business, and culture in the Americas. So system failure behind the rise of Jair Bolsonaro, or Bolsonaro, as he's Portuguese, well, Brazilian. You know what I mean. How a retired army captain rose from a marginal apologist for torture. We'll get to the torture bit down below, so it will be interesting on the reasons why this is actually happening. But for a marginal apologist for torture and dictatorship to a serious contender and now Brazilian president. So let's carry down, shall we? It was excuse me. Very, very sorry there. For some reason, I decided it was a good time to die. So, yes. Right, let's carry on and read this post, shall we? See how we're actually doing. So, it was a sunny Tuesday morning in Rio de Janeiro, and Flavio Bolsonaro, the son of Brazil's conservative presidential candidate, was patiently explaining to me when torture is okay. Yeah. It's very interesting how he uses this, and I think anybody that's not in the idea of politics, in actual fact, let me do it this way. It's very interesting on the way that this person actually explains this, how Bolsonaro actually explains it and the reasons why. And the way that he actually gives a example of when somebody might think that it's okay to torture is probably how most people with any ounce of common sense would actually view the world and actually understand it if you're in that situation. So I think it would be very, very interesting to hear what his actual point of view is, wouldn't it? So let's actually go and have a look and actually listen. So this is Bolsonaro, obviously. I'll give you an example, he offered. I have 2 small daughters, 5 and 3. If a criminal kidnaps my daughter and starts sending me a piece of her ear, a piece of her finger to my house, and the police catches one of the criminals from that gang of kidnappers, and if he doesn't tell where she's being kept, I'm going to volunteer to torture that guy. And again, and I'll do this so people can see my actual point and stature in this, I would agree with the guy. I'm sorry to say, I would honestly agree with the guy. I think anybody with an ounce of idea of what family actually means to anybody would actually do the same thing. So when they say that, oh, he's an advocate of torture, this is what he means, but he's an advocate of torture. He's not saying, oh, let's waterboard or terrorists and everything else like that. He's saying that in certain circumstances, there might be reasons for why you can torture somebody. And let's be honest, if you were a parent, or even if it was to do with your sister, or to do with your mother, or your father, or your dog, or your cat, or your tortoise, yes, B, I'm thinking of you, for when you watch this in your lunch break, you would want to try and get information out of that person. That's the reason why when people know or have a physical connection to criminals or to crimes, they tell them not to get involved, because they know that they would do stuff like this to do it. Now, I'm not saying it's something that we should all do, but in the example that he gave for the idea of torture, you could understand the premise of it. You can understand the reasonings behind it. Now, I'm not agreeing with him, but it's not the same as saying, oh yeah, I advocate torture for everything. It's not the same. So, let's go back and actually have a look at, excuse me again, what this actually is saying. So, he's not in favour of torture as a state policy. Oh, surprise. But, you know, one of the first sentences is that he was explaining his idea of torture. So, yeah. You have an idea on how this is going to be going, don't you? But in certain situations, any human being, his voice trailed off because he wanted to use the right words, because, you know, being used out of context and probably going to be absolutely desecrated no matter what he says. Yeah, so let's get back to that, shall we? You weigh what is more important in value. Your life? Is it your daughter, or the right to remain silent? Do you understand? And I think that's an important question to ask. Is the right of, again, I'll just do this so everybody knows that I'm doing this as a genuine person. So, again, he asks, which is a valid question in my opinion, Is the right to remain silent higher than the right and sanctity to life and the protection of thereof? Me, I would say no. In that instance. But then again, that's a philosophical question, or theological question, should I say. And those are for people that are more intelligent than me to actually go through. I think the point that he is making is that we need to be a lot harder on the criminals that we do catch to make sure that innocent people don't get hurt. I think that's where we're going with this. Do you think the same? That's what I think anyway. I think that's what he was saying. So when it comes to the idea of torture, he's not saying that he wants it to a state level, and he never has done. So let me just move this up a little bit so we can get there. So this was vintage Bolsonaro, a grim, apologetic view of the law and order, a clever, possibly sincere nod to democratic convention. I'm not in favour of torture, but see how I mean how they were going to take him out of context? Excuse me again. Well, I'm not feeling very well today, so I've got a lot of coughs. I've somehow managed to capture B's illness from yesterday, or I've caught it off of my dad, one or the other. So already we can see, which is about, what is it, 4 paragraphs now? Let's have a look. 1, 2, 3, the fourth paragraph down, has already tried to twist what he's actually saying. I'm not in favour of torture, but... No, he's not saying he's not in favour of torture, but he's saying he's not in favour of torture, yet can see when people would want to use it. After all, you have to remember, he's a military guy. Has been for a long time. So is his family. So there are a lot more nuances to what you've just said. I'm not in favour of torture, but... Oh, by the way, we also go into crime statistics later on down at the bottom. And, yeah. Kidnapping is very, very high. Very high. So there's a reason why people would have voted for this, because they would want to have their loved ones brought back to them. And the people that are in gangs that are doing this and chopping people's ears, fingers and toes off to send them to the family to ransom them for money, could understand the reasons why he would say, yeah, but. So there are nuances to this. But would you hear that from anybody else? Probably not. Probably not. But let's go through. And a simple, easy to understand message that in a country with 19 of the world's 50 most violent cities makes even some moderate Brazilians say, you know what, he may be right. If you don't live in somewhere, how can you gauge on what you would do to protect your loved ones at the end of the day? So let's carry on. Again, I'm really sorry. So, it's a message that horrifies advocates of human rights and democracy, as well as those who say there are more effective and legal ways to fight crime. Well, it's not doing very well if all the crime stats are suggesting that you have 19 of the world's worst cities in your democracy. It's not going very well, is it? Not going very well at all. Maybe you might need a different approach. Again, I'm not advocating for torture, but... No, I'm not advocating for torture. You can see why that there are reasons, and in certain aspects you would use it, though. That's the reason why it was invented in the first place, after all. I love that at the start of a sentence. But it has helped make the Bolsonaros the most successful family in Brazilian politics at a time when much of Latin America, covered in cartels and drug gangs, surprisingly, and the world are experiencing an explosion of nationalist, anti-establishment favour. Could that be with the fact that because nothing seems to bother the establishment, that they're the ones that are actually trying to do something with the world? That they're the nationalists, rather, are the ones that are actually coming out and providing a good idea? No, I'm not advocating for torture, but the idea of saying that there might be other ways of looking at this and dealing with it. Maybe that might be a good thing to go through, rather than just going, well, the system seems to work, let's carry on. It's just no. So, Flario, sorry about that. I'm really shit with pronunciations. Anybody can tell me what it is in the chat, please do. 36 is a state legislator in Rio. Carlos, 35, is a city councilman. Eduardo, 33, is a federal congressman representing Sao Paulo. Yet the real story is the family patriarch. And for anybody that doesn't speak regressive, that's father, the dad. Jair, a 62-year-old retired army captain and a congressman, just 2 years ago, he was widely lampooned as an embarrassing, hate-spewed sideshow, but today he is leading contender to become Brazil's next president. Polls for this October election puts him in second place with about 20% of the vote. Ah, that's a shame. He won with over 50-something%. I think it was 58 overall, or 56. Good enough to make a runoff in a fragmented, still unsettled field. Amongst Brazil's wealthiest, best educated voters, Bolsonaro is, believe it or not, the preferred candidate by a healthy margin. Maybe because he's the only one that's actually willing to do anything about the crime and the criminal gangs? And considering that I think that Brazil for the last, 10 years, has had a socialist in charge, a corrupt socialist in charge, for around about at least 5 to 6 years. I think before that wasn't so much of a corrupted leader, but still corrupt in some way. But I could be wrong, but that's as far as I'm aware. Polls show voters between the ages of 18 to 25 adore him most of all, because they see the trouble that is going on in the country, and they generally want to stop people being raped and murdered and kidnapped. But let's vote progressive because they have a better way of dealing with crimes. Oh no, never mind. They don't. Never mind. So going a little bit further down. What does everybody else think about this, to be fair? What's everybody else saying at the moment? No, I think I'll keep my unbuttoned shirt on for the moment, Mr. Tank. How is everybody today, anyway? I haven't been able to speak or send anything of this out, so maybe it might be interesting for everybody to let me know how everybody's going, what's doing, what's happening, that sort of stuff. How many people do we have watching at the moment? No, not very many. Well, okay, well what I'm going to do very, very quickly, if everybody else can as well, I think it would be a very good idea if everybody could just quickly retweet this out for me, please. Just to get a couple of people watching and so on and so forth. I'm not sure if the tweet actually went out to let everybody know. I'm not sure if a notification went out for everybody to know as well. I do not want to send anti-bully a message. That will not help me in any way, shape or form. I like drama, but not that much drama. Right. So I'm just sending this out myself. So if everybody else can do exactly the same, try and get us a couple of more viewers, just so people understand where it's coming from and what's going on. Please come and watch us talk Brazilian politics, because we can do this even though we don't live there. which is lovely. I was talking to two transgenders earlier on, telling me that I couldn't talk on the subject because one, I wasn't a professional, and second of all, I'm not experiencing it. So yeah, that was lots of fun. Lots of fun for that. So what I'm going to do is I'm also going to quickly put out a little bit for other people to come and watch. What I'll do is I'll put the camera on so you actually have something to watch, because you know I'm so pretty. I'm so pretty and cool. Anyway, I think that's enough craziness for the moment. For the moment, I'll get back there, I'm sure. But I have just sent that out to everybody, so please go and retweet that as much as possible. Tweet that out to everyone. Tweet this out as much as possible as well. Let everybody know that we're able to do stuff. We know what we're talking about some of the time. Honest. I'm going to quickly go to Discord, and I'm also going to do the same in Discord as well. So yeah, I want to do it in you, baby. I want to do it in you, which is in politics. So should be interesting for people to come and watch. If they do want to come and watch, should be interesting. See if we get some new people in as well. That'll be good. Hopefully somebody will be about that doesn't know what's going on. Better put it in my stream as well on @everyone, because you know if I don't do that, then everyone that ever supported me. Sorry, I'm just being a dick and trying to just free up the dead space so there's no dead space while I'm trying to get some people in. That's literally all I'm doing at the minute. Just hoping that people come in to watch. Just so they can interact with me. Save me. Save me, goddammit, save me. I will come and have a chat with everybody very, very soon as well, to be fair. See how everyone's going on that one. So, I want some questions and everything else there. And I know, Tank, I know you already said thank you, and I appreciate your comments about the engagement and everything else like that, and the prenuptials that are on their way and whatnot. If you didn't watch yesterday's stream, what the fuck are you doing? You should have watched yesterday's stream. But if you didn't, I do understand. There will be a regular stream on Sundays, to be fair. So we're going to be doing that with at least Miss Quinn at all times on every Sunday, as long as she's free. I will also be doing other bits and pieces as well. I'm trying to make things a little bit easier and trying to get a schedule put together, but I've had lots of things in the background happening. But we'll get there. I'll get there. I will, honest. I'm also going to just send it to everyone in this last one, and then we're done. And then I can actually carry on talking and see if there's people here. Hopefully. Somebody might watch me. You never know. Someone might. Probably not. So, how's everybody doing then anyway? Oh, Bolsonaro already won. He's won by 56 to 58%, as far as I am aware. Hello there, the eclectic insomniac. How you doing, sir? Well done, Mr. Hammered Spud. Yep, they are absolutely shit, especially when you don't use their own notifications. So anybody that is just arriving slowly, would you please be able to retweet this out on this occasion? I am trying to do something a little bit different. Just a little bit different. As you can tell, I'm a little bit behind. I'm lagging a little bit. So with the new people that are coming in, you can see it's taking a little bit of time compared to the top chat and the live chat. So hopefully everything will be a bit better. So if people can just tweet this out, see if we can get some more people coming in, and then we'll carry on with the story, especially as we've got already halfway through. We've already spoken about the torture. Yes, the torture. There is apparently lots of torture. By that I mean, which is linked in the description box below, so you can do this yourselves as well. The torture aspect of this was that Bolsonaro himself said that there are instances in which a man or a person would actually use torture to be able to get information to protect their children or to protect their family. The actual citation is in the description box. That he gives a really good explanation for it as well, which I'm not doing justice for. Which you could say that the explanation is kind of interesting. It's a case of saying that he has a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old, both little girls, and if any of them were ever kidnapped and or had any parts of their body sent back to him, i.e. ears, fingers, toes, whatnot, then it would be a case of he would see no reasons why you would want to not torture them. As in, he said, I will volunteer to do that. And I think anybody that has a parent or is a parent would understand that. The actual understand that. But I think that's a lot of people and a lot of hard man talk to try and say that he's going to do well on beating crime, for instance. That's personally what I think. Right, we're hitting around about 8 or 10 viewers now, so doing a bit better. For everybody in the chat that doesn't know what's going on or has been here since the start, don't forget to like the video as much as possible. It does help me out as much as possible. It helps me out quite a bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the story, and yes, everybody that's just turned up, we are going to be talking about Bolsonaro. You can watch us from the beginning and then skip this again. There was a song at the beginning, but that kind of fucked up. Apparently the sound didn't want to work. So, yay. I will play the same song at the end, and hopefully that might be alright. We might be alright on that one. So, I will play that song right at the end, and we will see how that goes. Personally. Yep, I'm fiddling around because I am a boomer. Boomer. Common sense guy. A common sense guy is a boomer. So now we've got that out of the way and we're going back to what we were talking about. I am now going to transition as a fairy to a My Little Pony. No, I'm just going to go back to the story. So now that we're back to the story, I can't remember exactly where we were. No, I think we're right at the top, so that's fine. So, in the final months of 2017, I spent numerous hours interviewing... This is obviously the person speaking who wrote this, not me. The Bolsonaros and their supporters, hoping to better understand the family's surprising rise. It's not really a surprise when they actually want to deal with the cartels and the problems that are actually put into place by actually dealing with them, rather than trying to go, well, if we offer them some money, they'll be alright. No, they can earn more money being cartels than what they can being on welfare. This is the problem with a welfare state as well, by the way. But I'll get into that in a complete another video. And the larger forces behind it. In doing so, I'm sure I will be accused of normalizing their views by those who insist media should deny a platform to the more intolerant views in our politics. So even though that I know this is a slightly biased proposal or a biased write-up, I think it's very interesting that this person still feels that they have to let other people know that he's doing it to not necessarily give them a platform, but to better understand the politics and try and maybe stop it or something like that. So we'll see how that goes. Well, actually, he says it very, very well, actually, to be fair. So I think he's more of a centrist or a moderate, so very well plays with him on this. To which I'd reply, say, how did that work out with Donald Trump? Obviously. It was only after the 2016 election that American liberals reached for hillbilly elegy and similar chronicles to understand the Appalachia. Sorry, I really can't speak tonight. Appalachia. I really can't speak. I'm just moving on. The Rust Belt and over troubled areas are key to his victory. For those eager to make sense of a Brazilian version of this phenomenon, now, before votes are cast, welcome, this story is for you. Yep, but because you put it on this particular thing, not many people read it, and Brazil still voted for him. So, very happy for that. So I'm going to ask you a question very quickly to the chat. How do you feel about this so far? How does everything feel for you? Do you think that this is going to go well? Do you think there's going to be any hit pieces in here? What do you think is actually happening? Do you think there's anything interesting that can happen? Do you think anything is going to be over the top or anything else like that? Or do you think that they're going to give him a fair whack or a fair kill, if you know what I mean? What do you guys actually think? I really would like to know. Try and involve you a little bit more, trying to get you out there. I know there is a little bit of a lag, so I will try and wait or fill the space so much. Well, I will suppose that I will leave the chat to talk among itself. I suppose. Though I do realise that there is a little bit of a lag, so I do understand that. To be fair, I think there is quite a lot of lag, to be fair. I do think that there is a lot of lag. I actually think that there is an exceptional amount of lag, to be fair. Well, I can't change that now. I'm going to have to change that at a later point. So I will have a look at that very, very soon, I suppose. But the question is still there. How does everybody feel about this and whatnot? This is a well-worded hit piece so far. Respect to the author, even if I don't like them. I think you hit the nail on the head, to be fair with that, Mr. Tank. I do think you hit the nail on the head to that. I do think this is designed to be a hit piece. I do think this is designed to show arrogance to the left and ignorance to the right. I do honestly do think that. But I do think that he is trying to understand the politics at least. Even if he himself doesn't too. He's tried to write it down with not so much of a bias. I mean, the torture bit, yeah, fair enough. But I think you could have what I would call a reactionary. I think you could have that and understand the reasons why he would, well, in both aspects. So, yeah, I do think that it's a bit of a well-worded hit piece. Mr. Hamid Spud, the reason why Mama Merkel is retiring, and remember, she's retiring in 2022 or 2023. She's not retiring today, and she's not retiring at the end of the year. She's going to sit out her full term. Don't forget that. She's just not going to be it afterwards. It's not much of a news, to be fair. It really isn't. It's not much of a news to me. I think she finishes in 2022, 2023 anyway, so she's just going to finish out her last tenureship. It's just written that she's quitting because she's going to quit the party. That's it. It's nothing exciting, honest. It really ain't. What I'm going to do, because there is quite a bit of a lag, I'm actually just going to continue. But if you could share this video as much as you can for the people that can share it as well, I would be most obliged and very happy for that as well. So thank you very much. Yes, Lothar Sheffield, a hit piece in South African, American, well, in both actually, I suppose. Politics being something different, yes. I completely not agree with you. Yeah, I know, it's about 30 seconds, but I talk really fast, or generally, especially when I'm on my own, because I'm trying to fill the dead air by myself. So I don't always allow for that long chat, so people can understand what's going on. But yeah, there is a little bit of lag, but hopefully it'll be alright. Again, don't forget to like, don't forget to enjoy. What I'm going to do is as well, I'm also going to post this all over Facebook as well. So afterwards, we should be alright. It should be good. Yeah. Cheers, guys. I'm going to carry on with this and get through this story, I suppose. So let's get through this. I'll find out where I am again, I suppose, very, very shortly. So, what did he find? The most obvious hypothesis that Bolsonaro is a part of a global trend that gave us Trump, Brexit, and other right-wing lists like Austria's Sebastian Kurz is true in many ways, but false apart in others. So he's doing well there. And to be fair, I don't think Brexit was really a right wing or left wing point, to be honest with you. I really don't. I think it was a point of when people understood how democracy worked compared to people who didn't understand how democracy worked. I think that's the way and reasons why Brexit happened. I think the only reason why Trump won, personally, my own personal opinion, if it was anybody else bar Hillary, I think he would have lost. And I think that's as simple as that. As for Austria's Sebastian Kurz, unfortunately he didn't win anywhere, so oh well. But indeed, the Bolsonaros are above all a Brazilian phenomenon. Anyway, let's carry on. A product of not only the country's severe economic, institutional, and criminal crisis since 2014. Surprising that. I wonder where that come from. Was that to do with a slight socialist government that was actually put into power that has been one of, if not the most corrupt governments that have ever been put into place, to the point where the actual police were looking to charge the Presidente of Brazil under fraud allegations and money laundering and bribery? I think there was. Personally, I honestly do think there was, but I could be wrong. So please go and Google it for yourselves. Because I am Genk Yuga. I mean Cenk. But also of its successes in a decade prior. Not so much. Not so much. It was still very bad. The only thing that happened in 2014 beforehand was the fact that it won the World Cup. As in, won the opportunity to host the World Cup. So infrastructure and funding was actually given to the country as a whole to be able to upgrade its stadiums and stadias, for instance. But, you know, don't tell the truth or anything. So Jair Bolsonaro could win. He absolutely could. Or could absolutely. Which is true. And guess what? He won. He absolutely won. So, the Rogue's Appeal, as he has subcategorized this section, should we say. So let's go through it, shall we? As again, I'm sorry for all the sniffing and snuffling. I've got a cold, I'm sure I have, and I've been caught with it. So, for his supporters, much of Jair Bolsonaro's appeal lies in his origin story. He's a Catholic, small town, and working class. But yet, every time you hear that working class and somebody that believes in authority, he's completely and utterly shifted to the right wing. Surprising that, isn't it? When he doesn't conform to the idea of globalism or the idea of socialism or anything else like that. But he was born working class, but he went off to the right wing. He's not really part of the working class anymore. Anyway, that's enough of a divergence. Let's go back. With a constantly cavalier approach to the rules and decorum, Jair has the mind of an average Brazilian, which I think is absolutely one of the best things for politicians to be able to have. If you think that you are above the Brazilian people or above and beyond what normal people can think or comprehend, then how are you going to help the common people? That's one of the best qualities that any politician can ever have, to be able to touch the commoners. If you can't do that, if you can't assimilate yourself to what the commoners are thinking and believing, then how are you ever going to get them on your side, bar just running as a Labour or a Conservative politician regardless? But that's my own rhetoric. Let's carry on. Said Rodrigo Ciez, an economist in Rio who is close to the family. And people just love that, which is true, and for the reasons that I've just explained. So he was born in 1955 in a small town in Sao Paulo state. His parents originally wanted to name him Messias or Messiah, but a neighbour suggested Jair. You know what I'm like with pronunciation. Sorry, guys. After a midfielder on the Brazilian national soccer team, or for me and you, football. So, Maciças become his middle name instead. Jair's father was a practicing dentist with no professional training. Thought you'd throw that one in there, would you? Which was somewhat common in the area, but also illegal. You thought you'd throw that one in there as well, did you? Unfortunately, that's what it's like in Brazil. If you don't provide enough infrastructure, people are going to find ways of dealing with it. It is what you would almost have called an anarchy state with the idea of having a democracy in it. Especially at that point in the 1950s. Fucking hell. No professional training. Which was somewhat common in Europe, but also illegal. The family bounced around as he looked for a place to work in peace before finally landing in Eldorado Paulista, a banana town in the Atlantic rainforest. Gunfights occasionally broke out in the town plaza. Like an argument, or somebody having a go at the pizza guy, or, the kids knocking around on the streets and whatnot. But, just occasionally there was a gunfight. That's it. Nothing out of the ordinary. Forcing Jair and his 5 siblings to take shelter under their parents' bed. Yeah. Looking very professional there with his gun, isn't he? Bolsonaro visits a security and defense fair in Rio de Janeiro. Looking very, very good there, isn't he? Again, sorry guys, I just had a really bad coughing and sneezing fit. Ugh. So, as Brazil's 1964 to 1985 dictatorship due to a close, Bolsonaro enlisted as a parachute infantryman. And if you know anything as a comparison between our forces themselves, you know that the parachute infantrymen are fucking badass, hard-ass men. Generally. And this guy rose through the ranks slowly, his commanding officer describing him as a man of excessive financial ambition, but lacking logic, rationality, and balance. Well, what are you doing now, commanding officer? In 1986, a year before I was born, while still in the army, Bolsonaro wrote a column for Veja Brasil's leading news magazine. Decrying low military salaries, the article landed Bolsonaro in military prison for 15 days for insubordination. It also launched his political career, casting himself as a champion of the military's rank and file during the chaotic, hyperinflationary early days of civilian rule. In other words, the fallout from getting rid of the dictator. And nobody wanted to buy anything because they weren't sure how everything was going to be run. Not saying it was a bad thing, just those are the reasons. He was elected to Rio City Council and then became a congressman in 1991. So before long, Bolsonaro began grabbing headlines with his incendiary rhetoric. In other words, he was setting light to people with his rhetoric. Diatribes against minorities, nostalgia for the dictatorship, or nostalgia for the idea of soldiers were looked after, for the idea of it was stability. You know how some people regret things that they didn't actually want, but, have to deal with, and going back to the good old days or whatever. And a call in 1999 for President Henrique Cardoso to be shot for privatizing state assets. So he's not for capitalism, but yet is still classified as a right-winger. Interesting. For a partial list, to see the box below. But he was so distant from real power in a Congress that also included a professional clown and several legislators accused of kidnapping and even murder, that few paid him attention. So you're suggesting that this guy is worse, even if he did suggest to shoot the president at the time, than actual people that were accused of kidnapping and murder. You're trying to suggest that this person's worse? Or is there reasons why you put this in to make him look like a good point at that issue? Or I don't understand the point of why you've said this. Let's carry on, shall we, anyway? Said Ignacio Cano, a professor at the State University of Rio de Janeiro, and frequent Bolsonaro critic. But he was marginal and pretty much considered harmless. Well, when you actually have somebody that is accused and several legislators accused of kidnapping and even murder, several of them, I think that he would be one of the least worried about it, wouldn't he? So let's go through and have a look at his controversies, shall we? A partial list. So in 1999, called for Congress to be closed and said that the dictatorship should have shot some 30,000 corrupt people, starting with the president Fernando Henrique Cardoso. Cardoso replied, "It's clear he hasn't converted to democracy. Congressional leaders demanding Bolsonaro's removing from Congress to no avail." So let's just go through that one more time so people understand exactly what was said here. Called for Congress to be closed and said the dictatorship should have shot some 30,000 corrupt people. Now, you have to remember that this person was enlisted at the time and was probably eating some of the rhetoric that was already there. I'm not saying it's a good thing, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, I'm just saying there are reasons why everything happens. So let's have a look at this. I'm not going to rape you because you don't deserve it. Wow. That seems strangely familiar to Sargon of Akkad's point, doesn't it? I'm not going to rape you because you don't deserve it. He received a £3,000 fine for that in 2014 when he said it again. So, I'd be incapable of loving a homosexual son. I'd rather he die in an accident. I have to say that I think that is very bad. I think that's not good at all, and I don't think any father should ever say that about his son at all. But then again, you have to look at the idea of the fact that he is also a Catholic. It's the same thing for Muslims. Hang on just a second. I'm very, very sorry there, guys. I was dying again. But I wanted to get through this with you. But yes, you have to remember that he is a Catholic. It's the same thing as with certain Muslims that wouldn't believe in the idea of having gay, homosexual or lesbian daughters or sons. It is exactly the same as that. I don't think it's the right thing to do. I don't think it's the right thing to say. And I don't think it's the right thing for people to be able to legislate on either. I really don't. But saying something and acting upon it are two different things, by the way. So, Bolsonaro has made numerous other anti-LGBTQISTSWXYZ comments, including that beating children can stop them from becoming gay. I don't think he understands what being gay is. But, you know, some people are stupid when it comes to that issue. And I think that these are issues that I definitely wouldn't agree upon. But also, you have to remember, this isn't a dictatorship. this is a democracy, so he wouldn't be able to legislate under that issue anyway by himself. So, dedicated his vote to impeach President Dilma Rousseff to an army colonel who tortured leftists during the dictatorship. No, fine. He tortured leftists during the dictatorship. I am not saying that was a good thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. But a lot of people wanted to impeach Dilma Rousseff simply because he was, one of the most corrupt Brazilian leaders that have ever been put into place. Like, fuck me, really. Like, fuck me. I'm not saying that he should have been able to pick the army colonel. I think that was a very, very bad and stupid idea. I honestly do. But then again, I don't have much of a problem with him saying that he would dedicate his vote to impeach president. I'm not sure if he literally voted for the army colonel either. But if that was the only candidate, then you're going to want to impeach that person to put somebody else in charge. And if that's the only person in charge, then what the fuck else are you supposed to do? So, Bolsonaro was summoned to Congress Ethics Committee, where he doubled down and called the colonel a Brazilian hero. I'm not 100% sure what was going on here, and I don't really want to go into it. I don't think that he's a very nice person for doing that, honestly. But then again, that's just my opinion on that. I think that there's a lot of controversies, as the title obviously puts into place here. I think there's a lot of things, but you have to remember that this is also under a democracy. And sometimes people push people too far. But I don't think calling somebody that tortured leftists during anything is going to be a hero of anything, personally. And that's just my opinion. But you have to remember that Brazilian people voted for him in droves. Almost to 60% of the population voted for him. So there must be something there, right? So, he also said in 2017 that Afro-Brazilian communities known as Quilombos don't do anything. They're not even good for breeding anymore. I think that's really bad. Really bad. I don't think that everybody's like that, and I don't think most people are like that. And I don't think saying shit like that is going to help anybody at all. I really, really don't. I really don't. So a federal judge condemned Bolsonaro for offending minorities and fined him 15 grand. I'm not 100% sure that he should have been fined. But at the same time, I can kind of understand the reasons why they would go that far. I do think that there is a form of racism in that one. I really do. But I don't live with him. I'm not in his brain. I don't know what he sees. I don't know what the country's like. I'm only looking at it from an outside perspective. I don't know. There's obviously reasons why people have voted for him, though. So, a policeman who doesn't kill isn't the policeman. Depends on the circumstances, but I kind of agree with him. If you've got somebody that is running away, or somebody that's just raped somebody and they're trying to fight you or fight them or do something, then if a policeman doesn't kill that person, as in defending the honour and civility of the civilian, then I do think that there's something wrong with that person. At least trying to defend the civilian would be a good way to start. So Bolsonaro added that police who shot criminals should be rewarded, and that it should be forbidden to have a civilian as a defence minister. I kind of agree. In principle that it would be a good idea. I think me and Crumple Point touched on this on Friday's live stream, where we were talking about for our defence minister, it should be somebody from the army. So I do partially agree with this, but there is an easier way for people to actually turn that into literally just being what is it? Turning into a dictatorship or an authoritarian. personally, because I think it changes the perspective. But that's just me. So that's in actual fact, I'm going to go and read the chat very, very quickly. What does everybody think about that? Because there's a lot in there and there's a lot to unpack. So, hi. So I'm going to come back to the chat and I want to see what the chat think about this. So let me know what you think and what you feel, so to speak. Just like Pinochet. Yeah, that's true. It did nothing wrong whatsoever. Some populations are so steeped in corruption, the only way to run them is through a strong authoritarian leader. I suppose so. I mean, a lot of atrocities happened with Saddam Hussein, so to speak, but yet he was one of the main reasons as well with Gaddafi that was keeping that region in relative peace. Relative, obviously, not for everybody, but for the majority. So, yeah, it's interesting on that, isn't it? It's interesting. So, El Presidente is a cross twixt Jacobs Rees-Mogg and George Carlin with Italian Mussolini thrown in for good matches. Oh, yes. Yes, Lothar Sheffield, yes. That's exactly what Bolsonaro is. Indeed he is, indeed. Topic 7, Electric Boogaloo. You racist. Absolute racist. How dare you? I will do, but at the sorry, let me just read out the comment. At Common Sense Guy, you should try to find Bolsonaro's quotes in full without the anti-Bolsonaro spin on them. Conservatives in Brazil literally only have the internet to spread their views. I would kind of agree with you, yes, but at the same time, you have to remember that even with these views and in these contexts, it's bad, especially when it comes to the idea of gays and things like that and how he's treated them and so on and so forth. I do agree that I think that's very bad, but at the same time I do think that other people themselves making their own decisions and choices, and people evolve in their views anyway. Just because something happened 5, 6, 7, 10 years ago doesn't mean that that person still thinks the same. Not by a long shot. Especially after today when Bolsonaro has also come out and said that he was going to run Brazil for everybody, no matter what your race, no matter what your sexual orientation was, and is going to try and do a good job for all Brazilian people. So I got the tank on again, which is saying, at the Common Sense Guy, it's why they're so focused on trying to kill him in the court of public opinion online. Excuse me for a second. Yep, no, I have to agree with you. There's a reason why they're trying to completely and utterly destroy him, Tank. So I do have to agree with you on that. I do honestly think that there are some problems that are going on there. I really do. But at the same time, I think if these are the worst problems that have gone on, especially over time as well, from, remember, somebody who's a staunch Catholic as well, that wouldn't be around for lazy people, that wouldn't be around for gay people either. Now again, I'm not saying that's the right thing. I don't think it is at all. But you can understand it from the perspective of his religion, that he wouldn't accept things like that. But the fact is that he's also said that he's going to run the country for the Brazilians, regardless of their sexual orientation, race, or ethnicity, or whatever. So I think it should be quite interesting. I think he will actually not make Brazil great again necessarily, but I think there's a good chance of that actually happening, just through what's going on. So I think it's a good idea. I think as well, nothing to do with me anymore. This is all to do with Brazil. Brazil was able to vote for this guy in, and Brazil have chosen this. So there must be a reason behind it. The idea and the policies must be coming through. Not necessarily all the bad ones, but the idea of actually being able to protect yourself and actually being able to protect your family is probably one of the biggest things that have actually come out of this. And probably one of the main reasons why he's so high at the minute. Well, why he's actually won as president, I suppose. So let's go back and let's have a quick look through, shall we? So, in retrospect, however, Bolsonaro was building a base of conservative Brazilians who felt ignored or marginalized, or maligned, by the post-dictatorship establishment. You mean the corrupt establishment has been proven to be corrupt since it's almost inception, and has always been giving the cartels and things like that backhanded to stay out of the city. But then when they did come into the city, still continue. Anyway, there's so much shit that's on that. It was ridiculous. Politicians acting like the right didn't exist at all, said Berditz Kuritz, a prominent Bolsonaro supporter. The 2000 and early 2010 were a prosperous period for Brazil, but they also saw a big expansion of government, raising streets, crime and corruption scandals under the leftist Workers' Party. Interesting name. In that climate, Bolsonaro's diatribes earned him admirers in much the same way Trump's embrace of birthism. I'm not sure that Trump ever used anything to do with birthism. I don't think it was a case of that ever. First caught the attention of American conservatives. It's a legitimate revolt against those who have control over the media, politics and culture, said Rogano Costiniano, a leaderJair columnist, so where he actually started off. Even so, that's not enough to fully explain how Bolsonaro got within striking distance of the presidency. To answer that riddle, you have to go to Brasilia, and if anybody didn't know, that's the capital. Oh, getting a bit of a bad back at this moment in time, just sitting around. So, as you can see, there's a lot of spin on this for the idea of the right wing themselves have never been mentioned, not been talked about, didn't happen anywhere between 10 years, and yet was able to gain quite a lot of respect and everything like that through the years for it. So, doing quite well, to be fair. So, in a family business, or as in the actual title, in September, I spent 2 hours in the office Bolsonaro shares with his son and his fellow congressman, Eduardo Cramped, sparsely decorated and shielded from Brasilia's blazing sun by the the wisps of curtains. At the first, it seemed unremarkable, but the clues were there. The clues were there for what? The clues were there for what? First, near the door, a sign proclaimed, "I support car wash," a reference to the investigation of state oil company Petrobras that uncovered more than $5 billion in graphite Brazil's biggest corruption scandal ever. Interesting. In a reference to the federal judge overseeing the case, a ribbon in the colours of the Brazilian flag read, "Faith in Moro, faith in Bolsonaro, faith in Brazil." So he's been around to stop corruption for most of his life then. Why are you against this? I don't understand that. Why would people be against this? I don't understand that. I really don't. So let's carry on. The car wash probe, which contributed to the impeachment of President Dilma Rousseff in 2016, as in the biggest corruption scandal in Brazil, as you read in the previous paragraph, that was over $5 billion in damages to the country, has sent numerous other powerful politicians and tycoons to jail, remains immensely popular to the Brazilian street despite some recent setbacks. In an October poll, 94% of respondents agree the investigation should continue to the very end, whatever the cost. Why is there people saying that it shouldn't go to the very end? That's what I would want to know. The people that are saying that it shouldn't continue, maybe they have some stake in it. Because let's be honest, the reason why the Brazilian street wants to see it go to the end is because they know they've seen none of that money. That's the reason why. In other surveys, corruption has frequently appeared as a voter's top concern, even at a time when unemployment is above 12% and the national healthcare system is in collapse. You know the reasons why the corruption would be the most frequently appeared? It's because people have common sense. How can you pour money into a healthcare system if there's corruption in it that's filtering the money back out? For the health system to get any money, you have to get rid of the corruption, don't you? Corruption, sorry. You have to get rid of the I cannot speak, I am tired, I am sorry. But you have to get rid of the corruption to be able to get any money into a system, into an area. Regardless of what you think it is, if you're not going to have economical growth, if you have corruption in the area where somebody wants to go buy a shop, or even if you have a portion of racketeering that's covered up by corruption of the cops that are around in that area that won't investigate it. But you know, we've got to sort out these problems first rather than the root cause. It's really like trying to play Jenga, for instance, and taking the bottom cubes out first and expecting it to stand. It really is that stupid. I really don't feel very well at the minute. I'm really sorry, guys. When Rousseff was ousted, ending 14 years of Workers' Party rule, many Brazilians hoped politicians would finally clean up their act. But her replacement, and I'm sorry that I called Belina as a male earlier, my mistake. But her replacement, President Michael Temer, has been charged with racketeering and the obstruction of justice, which he denies, who narrowly escaped impeachment himself. So, was that the reason why people were asked on the street if they want to continue with the investigation because he was obstructing his own courts of justice? I wonder. Narrowly escaping impeachment himself, and now has an approval rating of just 5%. One of Temer's former top aides was jailed after police found suitcases stuffed with 60 million in cash in an apartment he used. Other allies were caught on tape plotting to sabotage car wash. One of the only prominent national politicians who has not been implicated is, you guessed it. So what you're saying is people are willing to step aside his personal and religious beliefs for the idea of, well, at least we know what we're fucking getting because he's honest. I wonder why he won the election so handedly then, even with your spin on this. The fact that you had 14 years of this Workers' Party rule and you're only just starting to get to the bottom of the first impeachment, the first corruption scandal, and yet the next president that comes along tries to obstruct the justice of it, tries to disrupt and completely sabotage the actual operation itself, and yet you think that the left is going to win the next general election? No wonder why people call the left deranged and absolutely fucking single-minded. In the polls over the past year, Bolsonaro's rise has almost exactly tracked Temer's decline. I wonder why. We now know he is our only hope for clean government. Yes, completely and utterly true. Though he may have abhorrent views due to his religion on certain aspects, at least you know what you're fucking getting. And sometimes the devil you know is better than the devil that lies. Because at least you know what you're getting. You can go with it. You can be able to sort things out. You can try and stop him from going on those issues. But at least you know he's not going to have $16 million in fucking cash in an apartment in where you live, taking it away from the actual people. So, let's carry on, shall we? Said Joana Pierre da Silva, a student who had been waiting outside his congressional office for hours hoping for a glimpse. Everybody else here is trash. So let's now go to the editor's note. After this issue went to press, Brazilian newspaper Folha de Sao Paulo published an investigation alleged Bolsonaro and his three sons has accumulated at least £4.5 million of wealth of property in recent years. Bolsonaro denied wrongdoing. The political effect of the revelation was unclear. You still can't even just go with the fact of that your party, as in the left, themselves was one of the most corrupt parties for over 14 years in Brazilian history. But yet, somebody spent some money on buying property. Just fucking wow. You have all of these people that we've been talking about in part of his family that have been in service since the ages of 18. Have been Congress members for quite a long time, including his father that was a dentist and everything else like that would have been able to save some money in the next colonel and whatever. And you want to wonder where 4.5 million of Brazilian dollars worth of property in recent years has come from? I fucking wonder. Anyway, let's carry on. If somebody was supposed... we're not going to carry on. If somebody was supposed to be part of this car wash scam, why would the fuck would he be so intent on getting to the bottom of what was going on if he had something to fucking hide? It makes no sense for that to happen. None whatsoever. But I suppose that's just me, as I am supposedly a right-winger that is in complete and utter agreement with Bolsonaro, I'm guessing. So let's carry on now. I said my little piece. That afternoon, I watched as one of Bolsonaro's aides spliced text into a video for social media, with the candidate standing in front of a Brazilian flag. They call him Hitler, they call him Mussolini, they call him everything but corrupt. I think that's a very apt statement. Now, I'm not saying that either of the first two are going to be anything good to follow, and they're definitely not going to be, but at the same time, he's not corrupt. Regardless of how bad you think he is, he's not corrupt. You have to take the best of a bad situation, unfortunately, hence why Trump won. Hence why we have Theresa May as leader. Better than Jeremy Corbyn, though then again that's debatable in itself. So, indeed, the Bolsonaro's use of social media is the main ingredient to their success. So, Bolsonaro now has 4.8 million followers on Facebook, 1.7 million more than any other presidential candidate, and 8 times as many as Temper. Videos show him smiling and mobbed by mostly young supporters. The tone is definitely anti-establishment. No, the tone is anti-corruption. Say it with me now. Anti-corruption. But inclusive and shrouded in patriotism. There's nothing wrong with being proud and happy about what's going on in your country if you have something to be proud of. During the 2 hours I spent in that office, all 8 Bolsonaro aides appeared to be working on social media and other outreach or WhatsApp groups, Twitter press releases, and so on. Critics say the Bolsonaros do little actual legislative work, but in a Congress that recently hit 5% approval, an all-time low, that might be seen as a badge of honour. Well, yeah, it's not because the Bolsonaros are actually in Congress that it's down to 5%. It has to do with the fact that the Workers' Party for 14 years have been held to a corruption scandal to the point of one has over £6 billion or £5 billion worth of stuff gone missing. Sorry about that, guys. And the other has over $16 million that he kept for himself. So maybe that's the reason why it's gone down to 5% approval, an all-time low. Let's move on. To be fair, guys, we haven't got too much left, so I think that we will be done by past. For anybody else that's watching at a separate time, should be about 15 to 20 minutes I think we've got left on this. And then everything should be good. Let me know how you guys are thinking about this in the chat. Do you think that I'm sticking up for somebody, or do you think that I'm in wrong here? Message me on the comment section down below as well for after the video is finished as well, for people who are going to watch it later. Let me know how you feel about this. Do you think that this person has given an honest approach of how things are going on? Or do you think that it's a case is that Bolsonaro is a product of the left's own making, and he's a response to the left's own making on this instance? Because that's my opinion on it. But I would love to hear what yours is, so get in touch with me on the chat and the sidebar, or get in touch with me, message me, talk to me on any platform that you wish to, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube obviously as well. Please let me know how you think and how you feel. Let's do this. Let's have a conversation about it, shall we? Let's be civil. Now, don't go sending any bombs, alright? On these platforms and in his speeches, Bolsonaro has linked corruption with the rising street crime under a broad umbrella of rule of law. I wonder why that could be. I wonder. Fuck's sake. It's a message that resonates in a country with more than, this is interesting, 60,000 homicides per year, and an economy that has shrunk 10% on a per capita basis since 2014. Maybe to do with all the fucking corruption scandals that have actually hit the country. Maybe people are not investing in a country that's full of corruption. Maybe that might be the reason why it's actually fallen by 10%. He tells young people, you're going to have a job with me, a gun with me, you're going to be able to walk the streets at night. And what's wrong with that? That's a great message to have. Not necessarily the gun part, maybe not, but then again I'm British. But I can understand the first one and the last one. God damn it, I can. Everybody wants a job, everybody wants to be in a safe area. It's just who we are as humans. Said Priscilla Pereira Pinto, who runs a pro-business think tank in Rio de Janeiro. The kids love it. He makes it seem simple. I suppose it is when you don't have corruption around you. I suppose it is quite simple. So, amid such promises, supporters seem willing to overlook his past sins. And when you say sins, they are to do with the idea of his religion mostly, and the idea that he doesn't like corruption. And considering that the time that... hang on, in fact, we'll actually go up. Let's go up. So, in 2016, when Temer was in charge... when Delia Rousseff... sorry, guys. So in 2016, which he got fined for and called a Brazilian hero, said that he would rather have a dictator that would torture leftists in charge than Dilema Rousseff, who, as we remember, over $5 billion worth of corruption scandal. I think there might be an instance on the reasons why he said what he said. And the reason why he was so staunch on the idea of the Brazilian cops maybe being able to shoot, for instance. Now I've completely lost where I was. There we go. We're back where we are. So amid such promises, supporters seem to overlook his past sins, as I just said the reasons why. Pereira, who lived for years in New York and expressed grave doubts about Bolsonaro, nevertheless called him hilarious. Cias, the economist, said his controversial statements were mostly bad jokes, not to be taken literally. I personally think that they're damage control, personally, but unfortunately you have to work with what you got. If the left in the Brazilian state had decent people in front to be able to put as a counter to this person, then they might win. But the fact is that they have been a corrupt party for over 14 years. And, you know, that level of corruption only takes so long before people go, fuck it, we'll have a bigot in charge. Regardless of what you think of him. At least he's honest in his actual political beliefs and his belief systems. Unfortunately. So, others love Bolsonaro for lashing out against what they describe as an oversight. Again, I'm not sure about that one. Rights-obsessed culture forced down people's throat by the Workers' Party. Again, I think that most people should have rights. But then again, I'm just going into a tangent about that, so let's just move on. Kikis, a retired Brasilia prosecutor, enumerated grievances from gender ideology to legalized pedophilia before then volunteering that there is no racism in Brazil. What? What? Enumerated grievances from gender ideology to legalized pedophilia before then volunteering that there is no racism in Brasilia. So, you have grievances with the gender ideology, you have legalized pedophilia, but you would say that there's no racism in Brazil. Somehow I just don't believe you. Sorry, I just don't believe you. But I'm going to carry on. Before then, volunteering that there is no racism in Brazil, we argued about this for a long while until she finally threw up her hands. You see, Jair won't try to legislate how people feel. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. Remember, Jair is the one who's become president. As I prepared to leave the Bolsonaro office, a 20-year-old student poked in and asked for flyers he could hand out at the school. I can't study Christian philosophers because the leftists who control my school won't let me. Oh, that's great, that is, isn't it? Absolutely great. And you wonder why that the country's in such turmoil and why people just want to learn and want to act. And just because somebody may have personal views that you disagree with or have personal acrimonies that you disagree with doesn't mean that he's going to enforce it onto a country. So, cool man, said Eduardo Gomes, and sorry I'm going to fuck that up, the press advisor. He grinned as he watched the young man leave. There goes another heavy boater. So, damage control, because, you know, they're going to have to because of all the actual corruption. The fact is that they're actually destroying the school system. Wait, why does this feel so familiar to what's happening in the westernized democracies and in fact in some cases America as well? Why does this feel so similar? Anyway, let's carry on. With his base seemingly locked down, Bolsonaro has tried to appeal to the more moderate voters who'll need to win a runoff in October. It's not clear he'll succeed. A December poll showed him with the second highest rejection levels of any candidate, behind only former President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva of the Workers' Party. Women made up only 36% of Bolsonaro supporters. The poll showed. He's disgusting, said Marta Rondon, an insurance saleswoman in Rio. I don't think there are enough men in Brazil to elect him president. I'm so happy that he was elected president. As Bolsonaro's opponent began to take him more seriously, they have become more vocal. Robson Diaz, a former commander of Rio's police, told me his proposal to increase gun ownership and gave police carte blanche to kill suspected criminals would just toss the country into an even greater facade. Thiago Moro, the highly popular judge overseeing car wash, has issued several recent warnings about the fragile state of Brazilian democracy, which associates said were prompted, at least in part, by Bolsonaro's rise. And I would have to absolutely say that that's bullshit. The reason why the democracy itself is probably so fragile is because over 14 years, people have been saying that Brazil has been corrupt. And for the last 2 years of that, people have been able to prove that to the highest of highest points. I mean, 2 last presidents, Russelov and Temin, were literally nicking money off of the Brazilian people. But then again, I wouldn't expect anything less from a socialised government. In response, the family has insisted they will respect democratic institutions and minorities. He's not against gays. He isn't against LBG. Sorry, the LBGT again. Sorry. Flavio Bolsonaro told me, citing a recent controversy gay-themed art exhibition in Sao Paulo. He said his father would push reforms to give police greater freedom to operate, as well as a tougher jail sentences. When I expressed concern about overcrowding, Brazil's prison population has grown 160% since 2000. While few new jails have opened, Flavio shrugged. They'll fit. Just squeeze them in a little more. They'll fit. Well, why is it the problem of that government to deal with an overpopulation that's been around since 2014 and it's now 2018? The Workers' Party that's been in charge for over 14 years has been able to see this and see this as a very bad thing, and it's been risen under their stewardship for over 160%. Why is it the new government's fault if they do get in charge? And why is it their problem to deal with it? They would have to just deal with what they've already got, surely. And sorry guys, let me just quickly take a drink. I'll literally just be 2 seconds. Sorry for the dead air when it comes on. Hello guys. Ugh. Not feeling very great today, sorry. Really not feeling great. How's everybody in the chat today? Well done, Tank. I absolutely loved that. Save me, Obi-Wan Bazzaro. You are my only hope. I have to agree with you. I have to agree with you on that one, Lothar Sheffield. Disciplines while serving in the military. He obviously questions authority and blind obedience. Seems like a good candidate for president to me. I agree. That's not being critical on those who choose to serve. Again, I have to agree. Well, I still think disparaging or critical is still good words, regardless of what one. Disparaging is obviously better, but oh, excuse me. I really don't feel well, by the way, guys. I don't know how much longer I'm actually going to stay with this. But I just wanted people to be able to see, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this a bit shorter. I'm going to post this as a video for tomorrow as well, for everybody to get it. But I just wanted to get this out there for today, to be honest with you. I really did. So, should be interesting. Let me just get back to this, and we'll be alright, I think. Getting a very bad headache, though. Yeah, again, about the bloody prisons. Why is it the previous government's... why is it not the previous government's fault that has been in power for 14 years to deal with the prison service and sector? If you say it's risen 160% since 2000, why is it that you did not bring this up, or anybody else bring this up, under the Workers' Party's leadership and stewarding? It makes no sense. But yet new people, right-wing people that come up that are going to be tougher on crime, oh, we'll ask them about it. Why don't you ask the people that were in fucking charge? Surely that would be the reason. So again, we haven't got too much Too much time left. Meanwhile, the family has undertaken a charm offensive with the business community, including foreign investors, at an October meeting in New York. At the Council of Americas, one of the organisation that publishes AQ, Jair Bolsonaro outlined a basic vision of a small state, privatizations, and lower taxes. So what's that then? That's all right. There's nothing wrong with that. That's good. The agenda was in stark contrast to Bolsonaro's past statements. He had, after all, once advocated shooting a president for privatization. Yes, he once advocated shooting a president for privatization. Let's have a look at the date on that, shall we? Let's go all the way up. Called for Congress to be closed and said the dictatorship should have shot 30,000 people. That was in 1999. That was what, 19 years ago now? 19 years ago. You do not think that people can change their point of view in that length of time? You don't think that people could calm down or settle down? Or you don't think that he said that to gain a form of recognition, so to speak? That was 19 years ago. All I can think is a Disney song at this moment in time that stars a little princess that goes a little bit something like, "Let it go, let it go. Why the fuck are you singing this song? I don't know, I don't know." So the event was off the record. The agenda was in stark contrast, as we said, brought privatization. But he said his views has evolved. Jesus fucking Christ. We actually have somebody that's a pragmatist, that actually understands how things work. People change with time. People are not the same. I am not an economist, he said. More than once. Vowing to name a strong team of advisors. Well, that's what people do when they don't know what they're doing. They speak to people they know. He honestly sounds like an amazing candidate to me. Apart from his rhetoric on what he would call Afro-Brazilians as being lazy and whatnot. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with the gays and things like that. I don't agree with that aspect of things. I don't necessarily agree with the torture, but in the instance that he used for it, I can understand in the circumstances he would use it himself. So, I do understand those points, but bar those, I think he's an absolutely perfect candidate. Bar those qualities. Inevitably, he was asked about past controversies, including his 2003 statement to a female legislator that, "I wouldn't even rape you. I mean, I won't rape you because you didn't deserve it." Bolsonaro calmly explained that a legislator insulted him first, but also expressed a degree of regret, and says he was out of line. He said, "Sometimes I lose myself in words and I apologize." This was misleading. Bolsonaro has bragged about his statement in years since, and even repeated it on the floor of Congress in 2014, leading to his censure and a $3,000 fine. Well, let's see if you actually put that on there then, shall we? Did he say that twice, or has he only said it the once? You didn't even put it in there. I know you put it as a partial list, but surely that as an actual citation, as in how you would actually put that down, surely you would have put that as a partial list again as his controversy, surely. I guess not. Let's go back down, shall we? Back down, because I am really getting ill at the minute. Audio Academy was leaked to their fit. The agenda was in stark contrast, blah, 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 blah. 37,000 found, there we go. But in a world of emithril outrages where Trump's Access Hollywood video grabbed them by the pussy, you didn't even want to put that in there, coward. Was forgotten within 2 weeks. I wondered if little contrition might just be enough. You mean a person that's actually apologising for something, even if he did say that in 2014 and what you're suggesting he did, which you didn't even want to put as a citation, even if he did say that, he said he's sorry for it and he's changed his mind since then. That's still 4 years ago. So let's just read this last little bit, see how much is left. Not too much, so that's alright. Now I've lost where I was. There we go. This more moderate, conciliatory, or consultatory, whatever, Bolsonaro stayed firmly on message when I interviewed him for about 20 minutes afterwards, when I asked him about his previous threats to shut down Congress. He called them a figure of speech. So even when you asked that, even after you finished interviewing him, you still are writing about what he did under the guise of not interviewing him. Kind of disingenuous there, isn't it? Kind of disingenuous. Yes, we're not on the record anymore. I'm not interviewing you, but I'm just going to talk to you and see if you still have those personal views or not. By the way, don't mind me. I'm just recording. God damn it. He would not allow in practice. He called for greater trade. You can't be closed like North Korea, and said he was concerned about deforestation in the Amazon. He saved his toughest talk for recent scandals, calling Temer one of the fathers of corruption and criticizing his peers in Congress for turning a blind eye in the name of governability. Yeah, I absolutely completely agree with him. Why should it be a case of people see that there's corruption going in their party, and even people who are in the opposite party are saying that there's definitely corruption going on, but are too scared or too blinded by their own power to even say anything? This is the reason why people like him, whether you like him or hate him, are gaining and will always gain power, because it is better than the devil that speaks the truth and his truth than somebody that smiles at you while stabbing you in the back. Because that's what the corruption of politicians is. I will tell you what you want to hear, but don't look at the way that I'm stealing money from you. And generally that's exactly what has happened for over 14 years in Brazil, under this Workers' Party. So we're now coming towards the end, and then we will be finishing. And I won't be staying around for too long because there's too much of a lag. But I will be finishing with a song. By the year's end, some previously skeptical business leaders in Brazil and abroad were starting to come around. One described Bolsonaro as a defense of last resort, as in, everybody else is fucking corrupt. I might as well go with a person that is trying to actually trade properly with the rest of the world. Sounds almost plausible, doesn't it? If Lula were not prevented from running by his legal troubles and still led polls by mid-2018, Bolsonaro's law and order message was also showing signs of traction of the impoverished Northeast, Lula's traditional base, but also home to the sharpest increase in homicide rates over the past decade. A new poll showed the military is now by far Brazil's most respected institution. Satisfaction with the democracy there is the lowest of any country in Latin America, because they tried democracy and it failed them due to the corruption and the trust in which they had in a democracy. And guess what? You on the left did this. You on the left in Brazil did this. That is it. So, on my way out of Brazil in September, I had a great conversation with my Uber driver about football, Rio beach culture and judge. The conversation turned to business and he told me his take-home pay was down 40%. Vast swathes of the city were now off limits because of shootouts and robberies. You see this decay, this moral crisis, these politicians who steal and don't do anything for us, he said, shaking his head. I'm looking at voting for somebody completely new. Who, I asked? He looked in the rearview mirror and smiled. Have you heard of Jair Bolsonaro? And that, my friends, is even with a writer that is possibly a little bit biased towards him, let's be honest. He's probably a little bit biased. You can see about the author there. You can go onto his Twitter pages and everything. I have leaked it. I have linked it. Well, I probably have leaked it. But I have linked it all in the description box below. Everything should be quite good. Everything should be doing quite well. So hopefully everyone should be quite good. Everything should be going quite well. Everything should be going quite happy. I am going to try and play this song, hopefully, and we should be alright. So this is me signing off. This is me saying goodbye. But please listen to this song, because this song means a hell of a lot to me. I will actually explain this song in a video one day to you, and the reasons why it touches my heart and why it means so much to me. So I'm going to play this song, hopefully, and hopefully it's going to come through and we can actually hear it this time.
That tear my heart open, I saw myself shut. My weakness is that I care too much, and my scars remind me that the past is real. I tear my heart open just to feel, and I'm drunk and I'm feeling down, and I just wanna be alone. I'm pissed cause you came around. Why don't you just go home? Cause you're channeling in all your pain, and I can't tell to fix yourself. You're making me insane, and all I can say is I tear my heart open, I saw myself shot, and my weakness is that I care too much, and my scars remind me that the past is real. I tear my heart open just to feel. I tried to help you once against your own advice. I saw you going down, but you never realized that you're drowning in the water. So I offered you my hand. Compassion's in my nature. Tonight is all at hand. I tear my heart open, I saw myself shot, and my weakness is that I care too much, and my scars remind me that the past is real. I tear my heart open just to feel. I can't help to fix yourself, but at least I can say I tried. I'm sorry, but I gotta move on with my own life. I can't help to fix yourself, but at least I can say I tried. I'm sorry, but I gotta move on with my own life. I tear my heart open, I saw myself shot. My weakness is that I care too much, and My scars remind me that the past is real. Tear my heart open just to feel.